it is not going to be only because you're a member of APC or you're not a member of APC. You want Nigerians who have the capacity to help him to deliver what will make Nigeria to be great. So with that standing, I have the belief that he means well for this country. I don't want to, when a government is for, I don't want to be carried away when there's a lot of work to be done. Putting the best team is the first thing for him. Nobody can do it alone. Nobody has the whole knowledge. But the capacity to put in the best team will determine that, yes, this country is now ready to add to what the present administration has done. So I have that belief that he is really ready for a job. No president can do very well if he does not have that leadership that will cooperate with him. You remember what happened in 2015? That affected the performance of the present administration. So I think that the APC should see it for the interest of Nigeria. Let them respect the leadership of their party and the president to move forward.
All right, welcome back. So definitely a lot happening, and yes, those are some of the issues we'll highlight this morning. We've got two gentlemen here with us. Adamu Garba is the former Deputy Director of Media for the APC Independence Campaign Council. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
And sitting beside him, Honorable Sergius Ogun, who is a member of the Constitution Review Committee, former Chairman House Committee on FCT, and member Committee on Petroleum Downstream. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today. Which one is still up here? I mean, you were in all of these committees.
I was the deputy chairman of FCT.
Deputy chairman of FCT.
Yes.
Okay. So, but you member Committee on Petroleum Downstream.
Yes, I remember.
So,
downstream, upstream.
Downstream, upstream, all
of them, all the
streams. So, and rightly, there's a lot of expectations this week in that sector, in terms of concerning the launch of Dangote Refinery. So many looking forward to. There's so many questions. On paper, they see good things, they read good things, but waiting to see how all of this will be implemented. So from your perspective, having been there, you interacted with several players in that sector, you know about the concerns raised by several people and expectations of this refinery when it's launched today. So what should we expect? What kind of impact is this going to have now concerning all of those challenges we have in this country about petroleum products?
Well, the Dangote Refinery will not solve all our downstream problems. Our fuel supply won't solve it. And I appreciate what is happening. It will help, but there are doubts. I don't know if you've been to that plant. If you go to a typical plant like his one gigantic structure, and to run a plant like that, to commission it, which means it's been tested. And it takes a while to test a plant like that, to get it running before you commission it for production, which means you would have been producing for months. And that's not the case in this refinery today. So I want to see the positives and not the negatives. So I just want to be sure that this is not politics, that the president is going to cut the tape because he's leaving office next week. But I think I see more of that than the actual. Because really, if he's commissioning it today, and which means they would have started production, the NNPC Limited should be able to tell us that in the last 3 months, we have received XY amount of petrol or diesel from this refinery. That's how plants are operated and commissioned. So I see a lot of political undertone in what is happening today. But in any case, it will be a good thing for this country to get the Dangote Refinery running. On paper, the refinery will start running maybe, they said, third quarter. But I think it's going to be more like fourth quarter or even early next year.
Okay, so while I can appreciate your cautious optimism. What I think a lot of people will be interested in is because we all know that even if it starts running, or even if it had been running, because we also see from the pictures that our correspondent was able to send to us, using drone shots, etc. We saw that the gas was being fired. Gas was being burned. So it showed that there was some sign of activity already ongoing at the plant. So perhaps, maybe they have actually started and they haven't just made it as clear as possible. I imagine that today we would know in full detail during the fine speeches that will be given, just what to expect. But let's even say that it is in the fourth quarter that this eventually all goes full steam, because 650,000 barrels, that is a lot for one refinery to consume every day. What are your expectations from that refinery for the Nigerian upstream and downstream sector in the country?
Yeah, my expectations will be at least we will save a lot of money from importation of petroleum products. But again, cautious optimism. Let me just add that because it's a plant, we will not get 650,000 barrels a day from day one.
Oh, yes, certainly.
It will have to start before it becomes to, okay. So it will be a very good thing. Even if they start with 100, 200, it will mean we will be augmenting what they are producing from our importation. That would be a good thing. And most of us are excited and looking forward to that. Like people say, well, you're not going to save too much money from it because it's actually the price of crude oil that determines the refined product. Yeah, but for a layman, even the shipping, even those vessels betting on the high sea, and you are paying dollars to move back and forth, some of that will go. So we also pray that there will be some honesty on the part of the businessman that has invested so much and on the part of NNPC to make sure that there's transparency and there are no hidden charges that will come back to the ordinary man. If we do that, it should ease the supply, one, and secondly, bring down the cost of importation and the cost of dispensing it at the pump to the ordinary Nigerian.
Mr. Gaba, what do you expect?
Yes, to be very candid with you, I'm going to take a more optimistic approach to this, because if you look at the impact that this is going to have on Nigerian economy, we are saving almost $10 billion per annum. That's 40% of Nigerian savings. It's clear, it's stated. In fact, CBN published this. We are creating direct job almost 22,000 and a combined indirect job of about 178,000. So when you look at this is a huge economic activity. And if you go back even to statistics that was published by OPEC in 2020, we exported about $25 billion worth of petroleum product, that's crude oil, and we ended up importing nearly $75 billion into this country. When you look at the value chain of petroleum product that we import, nearly losing 45 or 43 point something billion dollars. So these are the kind of value that we expect to save for Nigeria when we have this refining capacity taking place in our own market. So to the best of my knowledge, since we have readiness for commissioning this, I think we should be able to welcome a huge opportunity for Nigeria. This is like the largest refinery project in the whole world. It's been certified. And every other thing associated with this refinery have to do with the benefit of Nigeria. We should not forget the fact that the fallout of us pushing our crude oil out and then refining it to import was from an SAP program that started during the military era. So it takes a journey of our democracy from 1999 to now to have a compliant National Assembly that work together with the presidency to sign the PIA to enable this opportunity. So when you look at this, you will see clearly that I think Nigeria should celebrate this. All Nigerians should stand up and celebrate the opportunity that comes to our shore.
Well, yes, in terms of when it finally comes on stream, but realistically, because he's talking about what to expect realistically. So if this is commissioned now, the layman, lots of people will expect that we're supposed to hit the ground running. But I think what he's saying is that, well, not immediately, that they have to be cautious, because if you raise so much expectation, now that people are talking about fuel subsidy to be or not to be, many will say, but wait a minute, you people have commissioned is why we're still arguing about all of this. And so isn't this government supposed to factor all of that in, or perhaps even Tinubu's government when he does come in after this commission? And so I think that is the point he's making. Do you appreciate that?
I appreciate what he said, and the fact that he's even in the committee of the downstream sector. Perhaps he has a lot of information about this. But I want to also say that, it is a clear stand that the next administration is going to remove subsidy. It was made very clear on the statement of incoming president. He said very clear on many places that he's going to remove oil subsidy. So if removal of oil subsidy come live, we will need this kind of refinery to supplant it. And don't forget, the subsidy became a problem to Nigeria because of the excessive use of Forex. And the fact that we are going to remove the subsidy and still use Naira to transact internally with Dangote Refinery, I think is going to have a smooth sell. So yes, we can expect a plan to start now, and then we have the perfect production at full capacity for 650,000 barrels. But again, we have started something that is unimaginable in the history of Nigeria. We even have our own local refineries that refuse to work, simply because of the interest of international market that constantly work to make sure that we don't operate our refineries. Now that the market is freed, there is an enabling law that will drive this free market system.
So you're admitting that government failed in that regard?
Not really. Government tried their best, and that you know that government is not a very easiest partner in running private businesses. And I think the government took the best approach by privatizing NNPC and then also investing in Dangote Refinery and bringing in mainstream. This, to me, I think is a very good deal for Nigeria.
I saw you nodding.
I'm not. You see, we are making. He's a politician. So he's making.
Aren't you?
Exactly. An elected official
am I missing something? Yeah?
pointing at somebody else. Four fingers pointing right back.
I say most times that I'm an accidental politician.
Oh.
Yeah, because I say it the way it is.
Accidental or not, politician is still ascribed to you.
Yes, in the sense that I'm a serving House of Representative member, because I had to go through elections. But with his postulations, very soon they will come back here. It's not enough to spin these things, because they're going to come back and spin it. And that is why Nigerians these days don't believe in government anymore. Just say it the way it is.
Why do you think they'll come back and spin it?
Yeah, because from what he's even saying, it's not realistic. I know, okay, I just told you earlier, if that refinery is producing, it should have been producing the last 6 months or 3 months, to talk about the official commissioning today. So they should have been able to tell us, this is the quantity that is already coming from Dangote Refinery, pre-commissioning. But that is not happening. And now today you are telling me that, okay, we are excited. Of course we should be excited that we have a local refinery that is functioning, but we are not nearly there. We are not nearly there, so I'm not excited. And they will come back, that spinning, they will come back to this studio and spin it.
No. Let me say something. You see, you have nearly 18 countries that come together when you look at the kind of the combination of the engineering companies that form this refinery. And we don't expect this largest project to be at the verge of getting commissioned without passing through all the test checks and balances possible, without passing through the refining back and forth. We had a lot of information about this Dangote Refinery. It's a huge information that if you Google, you will see what they have done extensively. So I believe all those things have been put in place, and I believe it's a very strong credit to the government of the APC. And I believe we'll continue to consolidate the successes.
The government of APC. The PDP government under Jonathan already granted concession of USD to Dangote. It didn't start under this administration. So maybe you don't want us to go into that. Dangote Refinery didn't start 7 years ago or 8 years ago. All the approvals and everything started long before then.
The land was allocated by the APC government of Lagos State.
Okay,
I think,
so gentlemen,
I think it's APC.
The National Assembly will have a huge role to play in all of these things, because they will ensure that certain laws, policies, formulation, and things like that. So ordinarily, Nigerians will expect that it doesn't matter who becomes, principal officers, because if it's to quote unquote the interest of the country that's at heart, they could just go ahead and do it. But it appears as though that is not the case now, because we see different regions just angling, different presidents angling to become speaker, deputy speaker, president of the Senate, deputy. So all of those is huge for politicians in terms of how they play. We've seen a lot of activity over the week, and there will be more this week. So from what you've seen, where do you see all of this tussle going? Because it appears as though this is for their selfish interest.
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, I have been part of the campaign of the Akpabio Barrow campaign stability group, where we've been moving around together. And I can tell you that we have one of the best national assemblies to be produced. And most of the decisions that have taken place, especially within the party that zoned these offices to these areas, have to do with the fact that we need a stability in the system. And that is why the group is even termed the Group for National Stability. And if you look at the zoning arrangement, it has full of wisdom into it. I am one of the proponents of then ensuring that Northwest got the seat of the presidency, Senate presidency, and I supported Barrow Jibrin. I was all over the media on that particular topic. But the fact that the party sat down and made the zoning arrangement, picking the Senate presidency to the South-South, while picking the Deputy Senate presidency to the Northwest, the same where Barrow Jibrin come from, and then Speaker of House of Representatives to the Northwest, is just an effort to try to conciliate and consolidate the basis where we have our strong support. If you notice every activity of the president-elect, he kept saying that he has to reward performance. So we're looking at the government of national competence and the politics of national performance. So when you look at the national performance of the politics, we got massive numbers. About 30% of the vote that produce the current government, the incoming administration, is actually from Northwest. And that is why two principal positions was apportioned to the Northwest. And again, if you come back to the South-South, they have contributed significantly to the success of the APC. And that is why we have the Senate President going there. The Deputy Senate President go to the Southeast. But if you look at the other areas, Southwest have already the presidency. Northeast, where I come from, we already have the vice presidency. The North Central that is agitating already have the national chairman of the party. And national chairman is the principal presiding officer of the national politics of APC. So there is no any zone that is left out. The only zones that are laid out are the zones that we are trying to make sure that they form the caucus of the National Assembly, which is the Senate presidency, the Deputy Senate President, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. These are the only zones that have no representation in the current system. So that's actually what's happening.
I find it very interesting that every time, you know, they talk about zoning in the National Assembly, not anywhere else, in the National Assembly, when they talk about the North Central, then they remember that, oh, the national chairman is from the North Central, as if, you know, he's going to be a part of the 10th Assembly. Yes, he's a current serving senator in addition to who, I think he's also had to leave that role as a result of holding an executive position. I don't know how that works with our laws. Yes, but this is what we have. We know that he's not going to be a part of the 10th Assembly. We know that there were sufficient roles to indeed consider the North Central of the country and the mix of things, but they had been told, oh no, you already have the national, as if there were other roles. I mean, when you look at the fact that they're deputy chairman of the party, those other, I mean, when you look at the NWC of your party, as if it was not zoned according to the chairman having North Central, there will be deputy chairman from this area, you know, and all the other positions zoned according to a zoning formula for the NWC. Now you're looking at the leadership of the National Assembly and you're telling the North Central to be content with having the chairmanship of the party. Some people say that is ridiculous. That how do you explain that one zone has two positions? For instance, the Northwest has the Deputy Senate President, and they're also angling for the Northwest to still have the speakership as well. That certainly was not very good politics on your part.
No. I think when you look at this is a party zoning arrangement. It is not the National Assembly zoning arrangement. And when we look at things, we look at it from the party perspective. And that is why the party come out very clearly to indicate these are the zones we are apportioning these positions to, and these are the individuals that we have picked for this particular
party zoning arrangement, yes, with regards to what? It's not the National Assembly.
Yes, no, it's general. We are done with the presidency side. That's the president, vice president. We started with the National Assembly. We are done with the president. Now we are going into National Assembly. It also have to follow the party trend. Party is supreme in this combination. And what was done was the party zoning arrangement, which National Assembly is part of the party arrangement. So what we are doing is to make sure that all the zones have the opportunity to be represented as the principal presiding officers of the APC.
Okay.
And again,
let me come to Honorable, because some people will say, Honorable, whilst, you know, it's almost taken for granted now that zoning seems to be a part of our DNA, you know, regardless of the party in power, this is exactly what happens now, almost unconsciously. Even parties that say, oh, no, we don't have that in our constitution, they know that they cannot avoid that sort of topic. So I'm just wondering, when you look at how it has now happened within parties, be it PDP, be it APC, and looking at your experience in, I imagine you've been there for the 8th and the 9th assemblies, how would you say that this wrangling around zoning has really worked out in terms of leadership in the National Assembly?
I think it's just the Nigerian thing of everyone's equal representation. That is why we have the federal character in our constitution. But how well have we carried that out? Now, if I take you back to, I think I have mentioned that here before, go to the ministries, the parastatals, you know, MDAs. There's no one single agency that is not guilty of flouting that law of federal character. And this is constitutional. So we try to balance so that every sphere of the society is represented. But in an attempt to do that, I think we also over-push this narrative. Now, you have zoned. There's no problem with zoning. You have zoned to different zones, to regions. But do you have to put names? Allow the National Assembly members to say, okay, fine. You have zoned the Senate presidency to the South-South. Allow us in the South-South to say, okay, this is the man that should represent us. And that the voters there, or the National Assembly members, you know, past serving, to say this man has the credibility, has the, you know, the capacity to represent us. So for you to say you have zoned and you are writing a letter with names, then you have taken everything away basically from the members. So they are basically zombies. People that have
Doesn't it qualify as party supremacy, as he spoke about?
No, to put names. So what are the members of the National Assembly going to do on the day of the inauguration?
Endorse it.
Thank you. And then what do you expect from these individuals that their colleagues are going to endorse? Their loyalty will be with the executive. Then this is rubber stamp Promax. If you said the Net Assembly was rubber stamp, well, maybe this one would, I don't know, I don't want to call them names.
We started with the petroleum sector. We didn't get the perspective, questions from our colleague Ayo, so perhaps I imagine that he may like to also go back there with both of you gentlemen. Ayo, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Just a quick one, Honorable. Listening to you and the cautious optimism that you're putting into the conversation, it just raises a question on my mind, because you're a member of the Upstream Downstream Petroleum Committee in the House of Representatives. So I'm wondering if there are some information that people need to know so that people can understand the perspective from which you are speaking about what may be spinned in the next few months to come.
Well, thank you, Ayo. The information we have is that the commission, or rather, the refinery will come on stream from third quarter, or most likely fourth quarter. To see this rush for the commissioning, now, as I said, I think it's political. But again, I already explained, to commission a plant like this, it would have been producing for a while. And if it's been producing for a while, the NNPC needs to come out, the Dangote refinery needs to come out and tell Nigerians how much they have pumped into the market. I mean, talking about if it's PMS or diesel or heavy aviation fuel. You know, but we don't have that record, we don't have that information. But just to tell us now that the president is going to commission it today, when you have not been able to tell us you have been producing for this number of months, and this is what you have been able to put in the market, I think something is wrong there. Well, and it's so easy to verify this. This is not a case of...
Mokwe, said something the other time that, the pictures that we saw some flaring going on, some fire, some activity at the refineries. Is it significant that, according to information also available, which I'm sure you know about, the Dangote fertilizer plant has already been active, and I suspect it's around the same vicinity. So is that something to ride on? Is this something significant to make a case of?
Yes, we know the Dangote, the fertilizer arm of that refinery is working already. It's been commissioned and is working. But the part that will produce PMS and AGO, we are not aware is working today. Yes, when you flare, you are testing the plant, and it's a huge plant. You are testing. But it's just a simple question. Let NNPC come out today and say, well, we have been testing, function testing this refinery, and in the process, this is what we have produced. It cannot be that you have crude oil, you know, and you have been processing them in that refinery, and you are not telling us how much, because definitely there will be differential in pricing. It's not the same amount of the amount you will pay for the fuel that is processed, for the crude oil that's processed in Dangote refinery, that you pay for what is imported.
Okay. Well, so that raises the next question.
I mean, NNPC is our baby today.
Yeah. That raises another question, Honorable, very, very quickly, because I know that we're running out of time. Moman, that's the marketers, major oil marketers in Nigeria, are raising issues about what can guarantee the sustainability of this project that every Nigerian, including yourself, I'm sure, is proud of. They said, and I quote, "The government's policy on Forex has to move towards single window. The World Bank and others have said that multiple window, apart from lack of transparency that it brings, is also discouraging people from bringing their dollar to the country." Now, they're raising this around the issue of supply of the product and all of that from the Dangote refineries. How significant is that for you? And perhaps some other information that you think has bedeviled the petroleum sector until now that need to be addressed for this and other modular refineries hopefully coming up to be sustainable?
Well, I think we are all in agreement in this country that we should have a singular dollar rate. You can't have one for government and have one for the private sector. Then I have been here in this studio and I've talked about how much the vessel owners are charging, you know, and they charge in dollars. The MPA will charge you in dollars. NIMASA will charge in dollars, and these are government agencies. And then the vessel owners are going to the black market to buy dollars, not government rates. And that is why today NNPC is the only component importing petroleum products. So it's very significant that we have agreed on that, you know, that you shouldn't have one rate for government and one rate for the private people.
So what is stalling that?
They have raising this.
My apologies. What is stalling that? I mean, as you said, it's something that everyone agrees on, and I'm assuming that the House Committee on the CBN also may have made that suggestion. So what is stalling that kind of thing? Because it's not only the people in the oil sector that are complaining. Everyone in the manufacturing sector is complaining, those who have to import raw materials and all. So what is the issue? Why is it that maybe the House of Representatives or the National Assembly is unable to compel the CBN to do what is necessary? Because I know from his own direct comments that the Vice President has also made that suggestion, I think, a year or two ago.
Well, Ayo, this government will be handing over power to the next government next week. So I want to be very charitable today and say nice things about them. So don't make me say negative things about them.
No, let's just know, because if we don't cross this hurdle, my apologies, Honorable, if we don't cross this hurdle, it's just going to continue. This is not about saying uncharitable things. It's just giving the facts, not necessarily being sentimental, just giving the facts. Why is it the House Committee on the CBN, why are they not able to compel the CBN to do the needful?
Well, you see, we have used the word deaf and dumb when we describe this government. Deaf and dumb. I have tons of motions on charges to the ordinary man. When an ordinary man has an account, for not even doing anything on that account, the account is charged. I also brought a motion on why even the CBN governor should be arrested and prosecuted based on the ways and means. There are tons of motions I have brought on CBN, but nothing is happening. So maybe if we go deeply into this, we'll be talking about the rubber stamp National Assembly. But I don't think that's the topic we want to discuss here today. We have sent tons of motions to the committee on CBN. Again, like you know, after the investigations, recommendations are made to the executive. It's not the responsibility of the National Assembly to execute. You send recommendations to them. The outcome of those investigations.
Okay.
So when I tell you about a deaf and dumb government that's on its way out, I'm sure you know what I'm saying. I mean, you have lived in this country in the last few weeks or months or years.
All right, well, let me ask Mr. Garba, go to the issue on the table as you have proposed, Honorable. Well, Mr. Garba, you listened to the governor of Rivers State in our opening comments, you know, the comments that gave a background to this discussion that we're having. He is making the proposition that, look, let the members of the party comply or line up with the party. Let the choice of the party be respected by all and sundry. It is also interesting that many, if not all of the people who have raised objections to the position of your party on the leadership of the National Assembly have been members of your party. And I also, you know, read from what Governor Akeredolu has said, that look, if we continue in this direction, we're already laying booby traps for the incoming government if it does not have the cooperation of its National Assembly. What is the reason for which that members of your party are not agreeing? Because from what you have said, and a number of people have also said, this whole zoning arrangement is just political, has little or nothing to do with governance.
Thank you, Ayo. You see, one of the serious problems we face in Nigeria about the National Assembly politics is the expectation that the National Assembly, as another arm of government, should be antagonistic naturally to the executives. Meanwhile, what is expected is the cooperation for the national sustainability and growth. Like my honorable here said, Robert Stamp, or that Devon Dom, I don't agree with him completely on this at all. Why? Because National Assembly is supposed to provide the enabling laws and framework to enable executive to execute their offices. That is their job. And therefore, you have a lot of complementarity and compatibility in achieving this. But the situation whereby you go wholesomely antagonistic, attacking and being an activist within the National Assembly system, is perhaps maybe the reason why my honorable, you didn't come back to the National Assembly. Right? Now, what the party did, what they are supposed to do, is that the party decided to make zoning arrangement and dedicating these positions to particular individuals to avoid any form of ambiguity. We used to have ambiguity whenever you throw the zones open. Like, for instance, in Northwest, we have someone who is not qualified by the Senate rules, customs, traditions, and precedents, like Senator Yari. He is just a new senator-elect, but he's wanting to be the Senate president. So this is the consequences of opening of something. This is the democracy that have lasted for 24 years, that is planning to have a successful transfer of power from one government to the other in the next 7 days, the 7th transfer of power. We have experiences, we have capacities, we have people that understood the business and rules of the National Assembly. So the best solution is for the party to come in and dedicate positions to individuals with competency.
Well,
with
that's also questionable, Mr. Garba. My apologies. Just a second, my apologies. That's also questionable because there is the place of experience, no doubt, but then there is also the challenge that the President of the Senate raised. And then you raised the issue of antagonism. I'm wondering what the role of the opposition will be if they do not have alternative positions to whatever the government of the day is saying. But we'll take that on with Honorable Ogun when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let me ask Honorable Sergius Ogun to respond to this. I mean, you've been in the National Assembly and some of the some people will call it drama going on right now, is actually something. Well, I know you may want to respond to a thing or two that you've heard Mr. Garba say, but specifically, I'd like you to speak to something. You've also used the word rubber stamp. He's used the word confrontation or antagonism. One of the things that I think is an issue, two things. Number one is help Nigerians understand the difference between antagonism and the role of the opposition in the National Assembly. If you can do that very quickly.
Yeah, well, the National Assembly, that's why we have 3 arms of government. The first on that list is the National Assembly, the Parliament, and then the Executive, and then the Judiciary. So the framer of the Constitution, our Constitution, know why that is the case. We are supposed to work together to build a nation and to serve our people. But in a situation when the Executive, because they have the purse, wants to dictate eventually practically everything that happens in this country, should the Parliament allow that? They shouldn't. So in a situation where you want to almost have a dictator in Aso Rock, that whatever they want, they get, will not all go well for this country. People refer to the 8th Assembly, the Saraki Dogara. They didn't start out antagonizing the government. They cooperated with the government. But then they had a president who transmitted from a general to a civilian, and was still learning to work with the Parliament. So he was giving instructions that they were not comfortable with. And that's how the issue started. There were motions we brought then. Dogara would not accept them. But people forget this very easily. There are bills that will come, Dogara will just step on them. All because he was protecting the executive. But he didn't get the protection from them. So they decided to work the way they should be. And he claimed that they were antagonistic to the government. That's not the case. Because when there's a romance between the Parliament and the executive, they would throw the people under the bus. That's why there's supposed to be a separation. And that's why there must be a separation. And that is what the Constitution envisages. So when you say the people you are antagonizing the government, in what way? That President Buhari
Honorable, you still haven't quite responded to the question directly. The question that I'm asking is, maybe I should put it more directly. Must the opposition party in Parliament be antagonistic or provide alternative positions or policies to whatever proposition the government of the day is coming with?
Well, they don't have to be. When a policy is good, everybody supports it. And that has been our experience. That has been my experience in the National Assembly. But when you bring a policy that we think will not work, will not solve problems, will not meet the yearning of the people, and you want to shove it down the throat of the Parliament, yes, the opposition should raise their voices and speak against it. And we did that clearly, even despite having a rubber stamp assembly, well, if you would describe it like that. The Electoral Act, the PDP members walked out, if you remember that. When we're also talking about even the PIB, there were issues, but you might not have seen that part of it. The opposition, well, I would not say, if I want to take you into how the opposition emerged, the minority leadership, how they emerged in this assembly, you want to use the word rubber stamp. You can't compare the opposition in the 8th Assembly to the 9th Assembly, because the Speaker practically nominated who his minority leader was going to be.
It sounds then
somebody that was a minority leader.
My apologies. It sounds then that, there's a lot of politics that's still going on in that. But there's an issue also, which is the second one I'd like to raise before my colleagues in Abuja take over. And that is the issue that the President of the Senate currently raised. Right now, what everyone is talking about is the leadership of the National Assembly in the 10th Assembly that is coming up maybe in the month of June. But then there is a concern that's already been raised by the current President of the Senate, that 70% of the people who are going to be in the National Assembly, Senate, and House of Representatives are new. And he said it's going to be a huge cost to the legislature in delivering on whatever it is that Nigerians need within the next 4 years. How much of a concern is that for you irrespective of the conversation going on about the leadership of the National Assembly?
Well, this will take us back again to what I think Mark mentioned earlier, zoning, that zoning is almost in our DNA now. Well, my brother here said something about maybe that is why I am not returning to the National Assembly. But you know, when we met there, I had told you I opted not to contest. My constituents are listening to me. If you don't buy a ticket, will you win a lottery? I did not collect the form to contest this election because I had said there is zoning in my constituency. I will respect it, and that is what I did. So for some people, that was the case. They respected the zoning, and because Nigerians now, we say, okay, we should all share in this pie. This zone has done 2 terms. There are even zones, or rather some states, where it's only 1 term. So now to answer your question, that can be very expensive. Because in the National Assembly, you have what we call institutional memory. The new guys are coming in now. The first day or the first week, it will just be like magic when you are debating, talking about bills or motion on the floor of the House. But if you have been there, you know processes, you know procedures. I cannot tell you my first term in the House is the same with my second term. I knew more. But that's where we are today. It can be costly to the country, but we have to sell it to Nigerians. To say the more a parliamentarian serves, the better he or she is, just like wine. But we are not there yet.
What kind of impact does that usually have on the scheme of things if they are new, taking time to learn the ropes?
Yeah, that's a huge cost because you don't have to start training them again. You train a parliamentarian maybe for 1 term, 2 terms. When he's getting grip of how to make laws and what to anticipate is out, and another one is coming in. You have to start the process again.
So what would you advise we do? Because you spoke about zoning.
Yes.
So are we supposed to jettison zoning in the interest of ensuring that experience counts?
Yeah, the zoning is local. So if we agree that a parliamentarian is better with years of service, institutional memory, we shouldn't be bothering about one local government has done 2 terms, it should move to the other local government. I said it clearly. Those before me, the gentleman before me did 2 terms. The one before him did 2 terms, but he wanted to continue, and then we fought it. So I am saying the man that's taking over from me now, if he wants to do a 3rd term, I will support him, knowing what I know now. But that's just me. Will everyone in the constituency support that? So for now, it's a Nigerian thing. Now, you have constituencies that are just 2 local governments. If it's in Nigeria, there are like 5 local governments. Like Kano, you have like 15. Somebody will say, okay, well, you've had senator here in the last 8 years or 12 years. We also want to produce one. That's the local politics today. So we have to begin to speak to it from Abuja. So say, this is how it benefits you. If you have somebody serving for 12, maybe 16, 20 years, he has experience, he's bringing that knowledge to bear on the national scale. You know, but we are not there yet, but we have to start preaching it today.
But Mr. Garba, you know, when you spoke about party supremacy, and then he complained or pointed out that party supremacy has certain limits. For instance, if you then microzone and put those names, you just invalidate the role, responsibilities of the members-elect themselves, who are supposed to be colleagues, who should go in there and perform their own functions, but the party wants to override all of these things. And then you have some members who have said, we are going to field persons for those positions for Speaker and Deputy Speaker. And they thump their chest that they have numbers. They will go against what the party says.
Yes, I like his conclusion about the fact that National Assembly is a system that is built based on bank of experience. Even if you look at United States of America, where we copy our democracy from. For instance, the current President Biden was in the Senate for 42 years before he became the vice president. You don't throw out an experience because people get better as they stay longer in the National Assembly. So you don't carry your experience and throw it out simply because you want to honor some certain arrangement. And that is why our party took corrective measures. How long has distinguished Senator Akpabio been in the National Assembly? What were his experiences? Check his track record. From the position of commissioner to the governor, you know, to the National Assembly, to the minister, and back to National Assembly again. These are bank of experiences that we are reaping from. Similarly, if you go back to his deputy, this is the 4th time he's coming as the Senate. You know, again, if you go back to Abbas, like the Tajuddin Abbas, the Speaker of House of Representatives, I don't think there is any member of National Assembly today, let's say House of Representatives today, that has fetched as much bills as he does. To his credit, he has 75 bills. Yes, Tajuddin Abbas, the aspirant for the Speaker of House of Representatives.
Well, he should know. He's a member of the House.
Yes, he should know. Yes.
And I see that he's shaking his head. So let him say something about that.
In fact, I'm telling you, in fact, the last bill he passed was National Broadcast.
So, hold on a minute. Is that right?
Yes.
He's not. But you see, when you say this is all political, they should list the bills.
Yeah,
if I say Chambali should come to the studio and drink water, how does that help Nigeria?
The bills are there. Go.
Yeah, it's a bill, it's an act, but how does that help you? How does that help the common man on the street? So list all the bills, the ones that were assented to, list them. Then let's talk. Let's talk.
That's why I now mentioned National Blood Transfusion Council that he signed recently. Now, is that not helping Nigerians?
So,
we don't have a bill like
I
that.
think, is it?
That was the last one.
Did you say the bills that were passed or the bills that were sent to by the president?
The bills that were passed in the National Assembly.
So if they are passed and not assented to by the president, what impact will it have? If they were passed and not assented to by the president, does this still count?
This is procedural. It has to pass through the procedure to get it approved. But at least a bill has been prepared, presented, passed first reading, second reading, and passed.
Did you know him? Let me just ask you a very simple question. Did you know him before now?
Yes, I do.
You knew him very well before now?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know that even his colleagues say that he's been a very quiet member of the National Assembly. As journalists, I mean, we hardly or rarely see him on the floor of the House raising any motions or even arguing any. So for a number of people, the name, they had to quickly go and research who is this person. Yes, will people have, I mean, for a number of people, his name was a name that they had to go and research. Nobody really could recall firsthand, you know, what bills or motions that he had moved on the floor of the House.
You see, this is what is called a natural parliamentarian. If you go to United States, where we copy our democracy from, for instance, you only hear the names of senators that are serving in Foreign Services Committee, Senate Intelligence Committee, Senate Armed Services Committee, those that are facing the public. But most senators and reps members, parliamentarians, they pay attention to research, understanding the problem of their constituencies, presenting it properly, get the bill passed so that it can affect the success of the constituency and further help to support their government to succeed. That is the hallmark of parliamentarity. But the fact that we inherited agitations of the post-Cold War era in Nigeria where we are running to democracy.
Very interesting. I mean, this is, as I said, this is about the first law. This is the first lawmaker that has been proposed for the speakership of theirs. When Femi Gbajabiamila was nominated, everybody knew his antecedents. When Speaker Dogara was nominated, people did not have to go and research so hard for them to know who it is. As he said, why is the party so intent on micro-zoning? Where does it leave? Because I know that the party has been asked this question. It says, oh, no, we're only recommending. If you're recommending, why wouldn't you then leave lawmakers to decide if they like a recommendation or not?
No. He's the chairman of a committee, transportation.
Yes,
all the while we talked about the train attack and all that. Did you hear anything?
No.
Okay, chairman of the transportation.
Okay, so...
Did you hear that?
No. Yeah, I hear that.
No, because you reference the U.S.
Yes.
There are people that serve in foreign missions and you hear
yes.
But we've had issues on transportation in this country. As the chairman of the committee, how
land transport, chairman, land transport committee on land transport.
Land transport. Yes.
So we have allegations. What was the issue? I'm coming now. What was the issue? So
rail transport is a part of land transport.
So now, when you look at this, you see that's why I say
is rail transport not part of the land transport?
It's part of land.
So what's your response to that?
He hasn't responded.
So what?
You see the problem. I'm coming now. The problem is it's not about coming to the media. National Assembly is a collective of group of people. It's an institution. It's not about coming to the media to make some antagonistic statement. It's about the man that has dedicated his time to building solutions to problems. Okay. And that is what we want in our parliament. And what the party did was not to throw out that bank of experience that we are talking about. You can't just have someone that is not effective on the floor or someone that have no experience to come and take charge of the house that has been built for over 24 years.
We have experience. We had somebody that was deputy majority leader, the deputy speaker vying for this position. If you are talking about experience, I think he's been in the house longer than this same gentleman. They are all my friends. We are all colleagues.
So, did you not throw that away?
We're talking about experience.
No, we can't throw that away. You see, the thing is that
Is that not the experience, more
That's what I'm
experience?
talking about. Now, what are the bills that is passed by the person he's talking about? Based on experience?
Never
You
mind.
shifted the ball game now.
Quickly,
You shifted the ball.
let me quickly pose this one to Honorable, and this is about the
As we wind down,
minority.
though.
Yes, the minority position, because we also see, there's plenty of talk on what is happening with the APC and its own zoning arrangements. But what is happening within the minority leadership? Because we also hear that is also a very hot topic right now. How is that going to play out with the potpourri of parties that have finally come together to make the minority, or let's say the greater majority, as they say?
Yeah, I give this to Tinubu and then to Gbajabiamila, because there was opposition in his time supported by the then governor and then leader of the party, Tinubu. Then we had strong opposition. Then in the 8th Assembly, we had a semblance of opposition. But now, we do not have any opposition. Even in this 9th Assembly, I made reference to that before, because it was managed by the present speaker. Haven't been in opposition. Of course, he knows how to manage such things. So we have almost killed opposition in the National Assembly. And going into this election now of the speakership, I don't even see any opposition. The man that supported the Saraki Dogara is the one talking about the need to support this government now. Wike. He was the pillar behind their coming out and winning.
Yeah, but Honorable Chinda has always had a very strong reputation for always speaking.
But that's his boss saying they should align.
Do you think that if he is elected, assuming he was able to make it as minority leader, because we understand that position is strongly contended now between himself and Honorable Oke, how do you think that is going to play out?
Mark, I don't expect anything.
You don't?
Yes.
All right,
If
gentlemen.
you hear his boss saying that they should support and cooperate,
So what, they would align?
of course.
All right, we have to go. Honorable Sergio Sogun is a member, Constitution Review Committee, former Deputy Chairman, House Committee on FCT, and member committee on Petroleum Downstream. We had him alongside Adamu Gaba, former Deputy Director Media for the APC Independence Campaign Council. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on, and all the best. We will be back in just a moment. Stay with us.